So Ms. Marvel is finally getting her Marvel Cinematic Universe first appearance in a Disney Plus streaming series that's happening very soon. And of course, Marvel Cinematic Universe does whatever it feels like with the characters. And so you're really not going to need to read the comics. It's going to be its own thing, independent of the comics. But a lot of people are going to want to see that source material, and you should. It's a lot of good stuff. And so I wanted to do a video just giving you my reading recommendations and just talking about all the major appearances, or at least most of the ones I know about, that Ms. Marvel has been in, and also touching a little bit on like figures and video games and TV shows, animated shows and stuff like that. And yes, I will be listing all of this in the video description, so you don't have to take notes. There will be no quiz at the end. And just a quick note on the comics I'll be talking about. Most of them are available on Comixology Unlimited. Before we get started, I just want to point out that Ms. Marvel is not the first Muslim superhero in the comic industry, nor the first to get her on ongoing series. This is one example. This is the 99 by Teshkill Comics in 2007. I might do a separate video on this. There's actually a really interesting story behind this series. It was in the United States and the Middle East, and actually has documentaries about it and stuff. It's a good series, lasted over 40 issues. Unfortunately, I don't think many comic shops in the country carried it. I know none in my area did. But what they did carry and what got a wonderful fan reception was, of course, Ms. Marvel, and that's why we're all here. And so for those who don't know, Ms. Marvel is a new character that originated in 2013. This is when Carol Danvers, who started out as Ms. Marvel and then went through a lot of different identities, finally became Captain Marvel. That's her current moniker. And so that left an opening for a new Ms. Marvel. And so they came up with a character who, she's a Muslim of Pakistani descent who lives in New Jersey. And she's a superhero fan. She's a big Captain Marvel fan. And so one day she gets powers and she decides to become Ms. Marvel. And she's very much like a Spider-Man sort of character. She's balancing kind of her school and her friends and her family with her superhero responsibilities. And she's really trying to defend Jersey City from supervillains and gets in those kind of street brawls that you see Spider-Man get in. But she's a polymorph, which is very similar to like Mr. Fantastic. She can stretch her body and stuff, but she also has control over how big her body gets, so she can control her size to become a giant, or she can shrink down. It works differently than like Mr. Fantastic, and they explain like how it works later in the series. If you need the convoluted sci-fi explanations for her powers and stuff, they'll be different in the television series. So my reading recommendations are going to be pretty simple. If it's a Ms. Marvel series with Kamala Khan in it, read it. So Kamala Khan's first appearance is actually teaser cameos in Captain Marvel 14 and 17, but these are just teasers. This was back in 2013. What you're going to want to do if you're just reading Ms. Marvel is you're going to want to start with Ms. Marvel #1, written by Willow Wilson in 2014. And so the first series lasts for 19 issues, and then there's a big event in the Marvel Universe where the universe ends and all the titles go on hiatus. And when they come back as new #1s. And so this second series, also written by Willow Wilson, lasts 38 issues. And so if you're getting it in trade paperback, it's all going to be the same series. It's all going to be just Ms. Marvel from the beginning of this series to the end of this one. The series is going to go through quite a few artists, but most of them are quite good. Willow Wilson does a fantastic job with the human drama. The scenes with her family and friends are just amazing. The superhero aspect of it is a little more mixed, but really the focus is on the drama, to be honest with you. But the superhero stuff can be quite good too. Willow Wilson does a great job establishing a small but solid rogues gallery for her. There's another vigilante called the Red Dagger that she has kind of a crush on and stuff. It's quite good and a very, very solid foundation for the character. And basically Willow Wilson in the final issue is just very honest. the final issue of her run, she just says that she kind of ran out of ideas. You know, just like most comic books, she was expecting Miss Marvel to last maybe 6 issues. And so after writing nearly 60 issues, she just run out of ideas and just decided to pass on the torch. Before we get to the next Miss Marvel series, I just want to point out that Willow Wilson also wrote a one-shot with Kamala Khan in it called Generations Miss Marvel and Miss Marvel. And this teamed Kamala Khan up with Carol Danvers from the 70s, back when she was Miss Marvel. And it's a fun story, gorgeous artwork. And there's also a couple other issues that Willow wrote of Miss Marvel. And we'll get around to that when we get to the team books. And so the next Miss Marvel series is Magnificent Miss Marvel, which ran for 18 issues. It began in 2019, and it's written by Saladin Ahmed. Now, I did a Conan review, a miniseries he wrote, and I didn't care for it, but I gotta tell you, this guy really gets Miss Marvel, and he knocks this series out of the ballpark. It is really great. Do not let the covers fool you. The artwork on the interior is absolutely gorgeous. They get the perfect regular artists and even great fill-in artists for this series. It's just really great. It's nothing groundbreaking. Willow always had these fresh new ideas. This is basically putting Miss Marvel in very classic Marvel situations. She goes to another planet and becomes the champion there. She comes back with an alien costume that has a mind of its own. She has conflicts between her family and her responsibilities as Miss Marvel. It's all very classic Marvel stuff, but it's so cool to see this character done in those classic situations, and it's well done, and the action here is just off the hook. This really shows you how badass a polymorph can be. I love the fight scenes in this run. I think this run was cut way too short. I think this really needed to keep going, but it unfortunately ends on issue 18. That being said, the latest Miss Marvel miniseries, Beyond the Limit, looks exceptional. I haven't read it yet, but the covers are good, the interior art looks good, and the writing seems solid in what I've read of the preview. It's about Miss Marvel encountering other versions of herself from the multiverse. Sounds interesting. Look forward to reading it. It runs for 5 issues. And so that's all Miss Marvel's series is. One side note is that early in Willow Wilson's run, there was an Infinite comic, a digital online exclusive comic, but that was reprinted in the first trade paperback. And so collections are honestly the easiest way to follow this series, even though the covers are obviously gorgeous. It's just a little easier to follow a modern comic in trade paperback. And so Miss Marvel kind of blew up in popularity. And so when that happens, Marvel is, of course, going to put her in a bunch of different titles, right? And so that involved putting her in quite a few different teams. And I'm absolutely going to recommend the first of these teams that she joins, because she is on the all-new, all-different Avengers that started in 2015. This runs for 15 issues. This is Alex Ross covers with Mark Waid writing. It is good stuff, guys. Basically, the premise here is that the veteran Avengers take new young superheroes under their wings. This is Miss Marvel, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, the new Nova, and it so works. It interjects new ideas and just interesting new things into a book that has honestly just been run into the ground at this point. We've all read the same Avengers stories over and over again, and Fresh Blood in here just was so good. However, there's another crossover, and so that, of course, they start over with a new #1, and Marvel, in all of its wisdom, decides that all the young superheroes are no longer going to be in the Avengers. So they spin off into a series called The Champions, and this is actually repurposing the name of a 70s series, so sometimes you'll see this referred to as the second Champion series. It's the Champion series from 2016. That's when the first issue began. It ran for 27 issues in the first volume. And basically the idea here is that they're young, idealistic teens, and while the Avengers defend the status quo, these guys are trying to change the status quo and make the world a better place. So the Champions get a second series in 2019, and this time it runs for 10 issues. And then there's a third series in 2020, and this one also runs for 10 issues. And it begins with the Outlawed crossover, and Outlawed basically just has one shot, and then it's the first plot line of this Champion series, and then the last plot line of Magnificent Miss Marvel. There's also a Power Pack miniseries that ties in, but it really doesn't have anything to do with Miss Marvel. It is a good story on its own, though. And because Kamala can't be in too many teams at one time, they put her in Secret Warriors in 2017. Now, this series ran for 12 issues, and it was tied in with Secret Empire. I really don't know anything about it. I mean, you can see on the cover, Daisy Johnson is in there, Devil Dinosaur and Moon Girl, Miss Marvel's in there. But other than that, I don't know anything about it other than it existed. All right, so the next team book she's in is Marvel Rising. And so this is primarily a crossover between Miss Marvel and Squirrel Girl. But the big exciting thing about this is Willow Wilson writes a couple chapters focusing on Miss Marvel, and then Ryan North writes a couple chapters of it too. And of course, Ryan North is the writer of The Unstoppable Squirrel Girl, which is also an amazing series I highly recommend. However, this is a little convoluted in its numbering, and Devin Grayson writes the beginning and ending of the series. So let me kind of take you through it. So we're going to start with Marvel Rising number 0. And then the next issue is going to be Marvel Rising Alpha, followed by Marvel Rising Squirrel Girl and Miss Marvel. And then the next issue is Marvel Rising Miss Marvel and Squirrel Girl. They flip the title characters there. And then it ends with Marvel Rising Omega. Yeah, I know that is super complicated. I will have all of this listed in the description below, but I will say the covers for this are absolutely gorgeous. It's cool to see Willow Wilson writing Miss Marvel, and Ryan North's stuff in here is hilarious. So it's a pretty cool story, even if it is a little bit convoluted to try to understand the order of the issues to read. And then in 2019, they came out with another Marvel Rising series, and this one is actually normally numbered, and it's 5 issues, and it doesn't involve the creators of either Miss Marvel or Squirrel Girl. It's just a regular miniseries. So that should cover most of her major regular appearances. However, there's also this Marvel Superhero Adventures Miss Marvel and the Teleporting Dog one-shot that has this absolutely adorable cover. Obviously not in regular continuity, but it looks fun. And I know because of the streaming series, they've got some more stuff coming. I know I saw something about a new online digital comic that was coming, or it may already be out. And I know that there's going to be a one-shot with Miss Marvel and Wolverine coming in July. Phew, I think that's all the comics. So let's talk about animation real quick. So she starts appearing in Avengers Assemble in the 3rd season, and you can watch that and probably most of the things I'm going to talk about on Disney+. She makes appearances in Future Avengers. That's like an anime thing. I'm not sure. That may be on Disney+. I'm not sure. What definitely is Marvel Rising. That comic I was talking about actually ties into a series of animated specials they did. It features Miss Marvel with Squirrel Girl and America Chavez. Ghost Spider, Spider-Gwen is in there. It's pretty good stuff. She has some appearances in the most recent Spider-Man animated series that's called just Spider-Man or Marvel Spider-Man. And she also has some appearances in Spidey and His Amazing Friends, which is aimed at young kids, but it looks cute. As far as video games go, she's had a few appearances. So my understanding is that she's in Lego Avengers. She's in Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. She's in Ultimate Alliance 3, which is on the Switch. And she is, of course, in Marvel Avengers, which is not on the Switch. And then she is in a slew of mobile games. I'm sure whatever mobile game is out there right now probably has her as a playable character. As far as action figures go, Marvel Legends did come up with a Miss Marvel figure. And yes, in case you're wondering, it does have the scarf. And yes, it does come with interchangeable arms, so you can get those embiggened hands. And there's also a completely different figure of her in the Gamerverse series, and this is based on her appearance in the Avengers video game. And of course, there's a ton of other merchandise. You can do a search on Amazon or another site like that and see what else is out there. But that should be enough to keep you busy for a little bit. Definitely looking forward to seeing what they do with Ms. Marvel in the streaming series. I know it's going to be different. It's going to be its own thing, but I'm trying to go into it with an open mind. The actress seems like a wonderful human being. They did a fan's guide to it on Disney Plus, and it's just a little 5-minute thing, but she tells a story about how before she got the part, she cosplayed as Ms. Marvel, and it's just a really adorable story. She just seems like a delightful person, and I hope they give her some good material to work with. All right, like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, see ya.